The dig site on Kepler 442b looked like every other dig site Dr. James Walker had seen in his 30 years of xenoarchaeology. There was dust everywhere. There were broken tools scattered across tables. There were tired researchers drinking cold coffee and arguing about the age of pottery fragments. But this dig site was different in one important way. They had found something that nobody could explain. James stood at the edge of a massive pit that his team had spent 6 months excavating. At the bottom of the pit, half buried in purple sand, sat an object that glowed with soft blue light. It was roughly the size of a small car, shaped like a perfect sphere, and it hummed with an energy that made the hair on his arms stand up. "Still no idea what it is?" asked Lieutenant Commander Yuki Tanaka, who stood beside him in her Alliance military uniform. She had arrived 3 days ago when the initial scans had revealed something unusual about the artifact. "Not a clue," James admitted. "Every test we run gives us different results. Sometimes it reads as metal, sometimes as crystal, sometimes as organic matter. One of my students suggested it might be all three at once, which is theoretically impossible. And the writing on its surface." James pulled out his tablet and showed her images of the strange symbols that covered the sphere. "We have cataloged over 40,000 unique symbols so far. They don't match any known alien language. They don't match any human language either. Our linguistic programs have been running for 72 hours, and they haven't found a single pattern that makes sense." Yuki frowned. "The Galactic Council is getting nervous. When word got out that humans had found an artifact of unknown origin, every species in the Alliance started asking questions. The Velori are convinced we're hiding something dangerous. The Kreth think we stumbled onto an ancient weapon." "Tell them we don't know what we found," James said. "That's the honest truth." That's what worries them. Humanity has a reputation for finding things and figuring out what to do with them. They're afraid of what might happen when you solve this puzzle. James laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Lieutenant Commander, I've been studying alien artifacts my entire career. The Velori left behind beautiful sculptures. The Kreth built temples that still stand after 10,000 years. The Marin constructed machines so complex that we're still learning to use them. But this thing," he gestured at the glowing sphere, "this thing is different. This thing feels older than anything I've ever seen. It feels like it was waiting for someone to find it." A young woman came running across the dig site, waving her tablet in the air. Dr. Walker, you need to see this." "What is it, Sarah?" Sarah Chen was one of his best students, brilliant and eager, with a mind that could see connections others missed. She reached them out of breath, her face flushed with excitement. "I ran the symbols through a different program," she said. "Instead of looking for linguistic patterns, I looked for mathematical ones. Dr. Walker, the symbols aren't a language. They're equations. Really, really complicated equations." James took her tablet and stared at the screen. His eyes went wide. "That's impossible," he whispered. "What?" Yuki asked. "What does it mean?" "These equations describe the fundamental nature of the universe," James said slowly. "They explain how matter works at the quantum level. They describe the relationship between space and time. Some of these equations predict things that our scientists have been trying to understand for centuries." He looked up at Sarah. "Who made this? What civilization could possibly understand physics at this level?" Sarah shook her head. "I don't know, but there's something else. Some of the equations are incomplete. They have gaps in them like missing pieces of a puzzle. And here's the weird part. The gaps seem deliberate. It's like whoever made this artifact wanted someone else to fill them in." That night James sat alone in his tent, staring at the equations Sarah had decoded. His mind kept trying to see patterns, to find connections, to solve the puzzle. It was what humans did. It was what had driven them out of caves and into space. The urge to understand, to learn, to know. He didn't notice when he started writing on his tablet. He didn't notice when the symbols began flowing from his fingers like they had always been there, waiting to be released. He didn't notice when the tent filled with soft blue light. When he finally looked up, 3 hours had passed. His tablet was covered with new equations, new symbols, new ideas. He had filled in the gaps. He had completed the puzzle. And something had changed. The artifact in the pit was glowing brighter now, pulsing with energy that he could feel in his bones. It was awake, it was aware, and it was speaking to him. Not in words, not in thoughts. It was speaking in pure information, flooding his mind with images and concepts that no human had ever experienced. He saw galaxies forming from clouds of gas and dust. He saw stars being born and dying in spectacular explosions. He saw civilizations rising and falling across billions of years. And he saw the builders. They were the first. They had existed when the universe was young, when the stars were still learning how to shine. They had lived for millions of years, learning everything there was to learn, solving every mystery, answering every question. They had become so wise, so powerful, that they had transcended physical form entirely. But they had left something behind. They had created artifacts, scattered them across the universe, and placed them on worlds where life might one day evolve. Each artifact contained a piece of their knowledge, locked behind puzzles that only truly intelligent beings could solve. It was a test. It was a gift. It was an invitation. And humanity had just passed the test. James felt tears streaming down his face. The weight of what he had discovered pressed down on him like a physical force. The builders had designed their artifacts to be found by species who were curious enough to dig them up, clever enough to decode them, and bold enough to complete the equations. They had designed them for species exactly like humans. He ran out of the tent and toward the dig site. The artifact was glowing so brightly now that it lit up the entire camp. Researchers were emerging from their tents, staring in wonder and fear. Yuki was shouting orders into her communicator, trying to contact Alliance Command. James didn't stop. He slid down into the pit, falling the last few feet and landing hard on the purple sand. He approached the sphere, reaching out his hand. "James, no," Yuki screamed from above. But James wasn't afraid. He understood now. The artifact wasn't dangerous. It was a doorway. His fingers touched the smooth surface, and the world went white. When the light faded, James found himself standing in a vast chamber that stretched beyond the limits of his vision. The walls were covered with symbols, billions of them, glowing with soft light. At the center of the chamber stood a figure made of pure energy, radiating warmth and welcome. "You came," the figure said, and its voice sounded like music. "We have been waiting so long." "Who are you?" James asked. "We are the builders. We are the first. We are the memory of what was and the promise of what will be. And you, James Walker of Earth, are the key that unlocks the door." "I don't understand." The figure moved closer, and James felt a sense of deep peace wash over him. "Your species is young. Your civilization is barely a heartbeat in the life of the universe. But you have something that we saw in no other species across billions of years of existence. You have curiosity that knows no limits. You have courage that fears no darkness. You have stubborn, beautiful, incredible hope." "There are other species in the Alliance," James said. "The Velori are older than us. The Kreth are more advanced. The Velori found one of our artifacts 3 million years ago. They studied it, cataloged it, and placed it in a museum. They never tried to solve the puzzle. The Kreth found an artifact 12,000 years ago. They deemed it dangerous and destroyed it. 17 species have encountered our tests. All of them failed. You are the first to pass." James thought about what this meant. What happens now? The figure smiled, and its light grew brighter. "Now, we give you the gift we have been holding for so long. We give you knowledge. We give you power. We give you the mysteries that the universe forgot." The chamber began to shift, and James realized that he was no longer alone. He could sense other humans somehow, billions of them, all connected through the artifact. They were seeing what he was seeing, learning what he was learning. Humanity was waking up. "It begins," the builder said. And James Walker smiled. The first thing that changed was the way humans understood energy. The knowledge that poured through the artifact wasn't magic, though it might as well have been. It was science so advanced that it made humanity's greatest achievements look like finger paintings compared to masterpiece art. Within a week of James's contact with the sphere, researchers around the world began receiving fragments of information. They dreamed of equations. They woke with solutions to problems they had never been able to solve. Scientists who had spent decades trying to understand fusion power suddenly knew exactly how to make it work. Engineers who had struggled with the physics of faster-than-light travel found themselves drawing blueprints for engines that bent space like paper. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Yuki had warned James that this would happen. She had watched with growing concern as the news spread across the Alliance. Humanity had found something unprecedented. Humanity was changing, and the other species were afraid. "You need to come with me to the council chambers," she told James 3 weeks after his contact with the artifact. They were standing in what had once been the dig site but was now a sprawling research complex. Thousands of scientists had arrived from Earth and the colonies, all of them eager to study the sphere, all of them reporting strange new insights. James looked tired. He had barely slept since touching the artifact. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw visions of builder technology, of ancient machines that could reshape planets, of ships that could cross galaxies in moments. The knowledge was overwhelming. "Will they listen?" he asked. "They're scared," Yuki said honestly. "When species get scared, they don't always make good decisions. The Velori ambassador has been demanding that the artifact be handed over to a neutral party. The Kreth are talking about containment protocols. Some of the smaller species think you've found a weapon." "It's not a weapon." "I know that, you know that. But they don't. All they see is humanity suddenly becoming more advanced than anyone else, practically overnight. They're worried about the balance of power shifting." James nodded slowly. "Then I'll show them what it really is." The Galactic Council met on a space station orbiting a neutral world called Harmony Prime. It was a massive structure, built to accommodate species of all sizes and atmospheric requirements. The main chamber could seat 10,000 beings at once, with translation systems that converted every language into every other language in real time. When James walked into the chamber, every eye turned toward him. Human eyes, Velori eyes, Kreth sensor arrays, Marin optical membranes. He was the focus of galactic attention, and he felt the weight of it pressing down on him. The Velori ambassador spoke first. She was tall and elegant, with pale blue skin and long fingers that moved expressively as she talked. "Dr. Walker, you have caused quite a disturbance. The Velori collective demands to know the nature of the artifact your people discovered." "I'm happy to explain," James said, "but I think it would be easier to show you." He held up a small device, something he had built himself using the knowledge the builders had given him. It looked like a simple crystal, but it contained more processing power than every computer on Earth combined. "This is a memory matrix," he said. "It holds a fragment of what the builders shared with me. With your permission, I would like to share it with all of you." The chamber erupted in noise. Ambassadors shouted objections. Species with translators struggled to keep up with the flood of voices. The Kreth representative, a massive armored being with multiple arms, slammed one fist on its console. "This is unacceptable. You would expose us to unknown alien technology without testing, without safety protocols." "The builders designed this knowledge to be shared," James said calmly. "They wanted all species to have access to it. That's the whole point. They didn't create these artifacts for humans specifically. They created them for anyone curious enough to solve the puzzle. We just happened to be the first." "And why should we believe that?" the Kreth demanded. James smiled. "Because I'm going to prove it to you." He activated the crystal, and light filled the chamber. Not the blinding light that had taken him when he first touched the sphere, but a gentle glow that seemed to sink into every being present. The ambassadors went silent. The shouting stopped, and the memories of the builders flowed into every mind in the room. They saw the beginning. They saw the builders awakening on a world so old that its sun had burned out billions of years ago. They saw them learning, growing, exploring. They saw them reach the limits of what physical beings could achieve, and then transcend those limits. But most importantly, they saw the builders' purpose. The universe was dying. Not quickly, not soon by any standard that mortal species would understand, but inevitably. Entropy was winning. Stars were burning out. Galaxies were drifting apart. Eventually, everything would fade into cold and darkness. The builders had found a way to stop it. They had discovered how to reverse entropy itself, how to rejuvenate dying stars, how to push back against the final end. But they couldn't do it alone. The process required billions of minds working together, species from across the universe contributing their unique perspectives and abilities. So they had created the artifacts. They had scattered them across countless worlds. They had designed puzzles that would identify species worthy of joining the great work, and then they had waited. For billions of years, they had waited. When the vision ended, the council chamber was silent. The Velori ambassador was weeping quietly. The Kreth representative had slumped in its seat, its aggression completely gone. Even the Marin, who normally showed no emotion at all, were trembling. "You see," James said gently, "this was never about humanity. It was never about any single species. The builders want all of us. They need all of us. The artifact I found was just the key. Now that the door is open, the knowledge is available to everyone." "But why did it respond to you?" the Velori asked. "Why not to us millions of years ago?" "Because you never tried to complete the puzzle," James said. "You found the artifact and treated it as a curiosity. You never asked what the symbols meant. You never tried to fill in the gaps. The builders designed their tests to reward persistence, creativity, and above all, the willingness to try even when success seems impossible. Humans are good at that. It's not that we're special. It's that we're stubborn." A ripple of something like laughter passed through the chamber. Even the Kreth made a sound that might have been amusement. "What happens now?" the Velori asked. James looked around the chamber, at all the different species gathered there, at all the different shapes and colors and minds. "Now we start working together. The knowledge the builders left behind is vast, but it's also incomplete. They didn't give us all the answers. They gave us the tools to find our own answers. Every species here has something to contribute. The Velori have mathematical traditions that go back millions of years. The Kreth understand engineering in ways that humans are only beginning to learn. The Marin have insights into biology that could revolutionize medicine for everyone." He paused, feeling the weight of the moment. The builders chose to save the universe by working together. They want us to do the same. Humanity didn't find this artifact because we're the best. We found it because we were willing to dig in the dirt and ask questions that might never be answered. Now it's time for all of us to dig together. The vote was unanimous. The Galactic Council agreed to share the builders' knowledge among all member species. For the first time in history, the Alliance would work as a single unit toward a common goal. And James Walker, the xenoarchaeologist who had started his career studying broken pottery, became the first human to address the united species of the galaxy. "We have a lot of work to do," he said. "Let's get started." The years that followed were unlike anything the galaxy had ever experienced. Species that had been rivals for millennia suddenly found themselves working side by side, sharing ideas and resources, building things that none of them could have built alone. On Earth, the changes were particularly dramatic. The energy crisis that had plagued humanity for centuries was solved almost overnight. Fusion reactors based on builder designs went online in every major city, providing clean, unlimited power. New materials allowed construction of buildings that were stronger, lighter, and more efficient than anything before. Medicine advanced so rapidly that diseases that had been death sentences became minor inconveniences. But the real changes were happening in space. James had moved to a new research station orbiting Mars, where teams from every member species were working to build the first prototype of what they called the renewal engine. It was a massive device, designed to restore dying stars to their original vitality. If it worked, it would add billions of years to the lifespan of the universe. He was sitting in his office, reviewing data from the latest test, when Sarah Chen knocked on his door. She had become his chief assistant, her ability to see patterns making her invaluable to the project. "The Velori delegation is asking for you," she said. "They say they've made a breakthrough." James followed her through the station to the mathematics wing, where a team of Velori researchers were clustered around a holographic display. Their leader, a scientist named Thera, turned to greet him with the traditional Velori gesture of respect. "Dr. Walker, we have solved the equation you identified last month, the one describing the quantum relationship between entropy and time." James felt his heart rate increase, and Thera's long fingers danced across the controls and the display changed. Complex equations filled the air, glowing with soft light. The builders were correct. Entropy can be reversed, but the process requires something we had not anticipated. It requires conscious minds to guide it. Billions of conscious minds working in perfect harmony. "We knew that already," James said. "That's why the builders wanted all the species to work together." "Yes, but you do not understand the scale. The renewal process cannot be guided by living beings. Our minds are too limited, too focused on our individual perspectives. The builders solved this problem by transcending physical form, by becoming pure consciousness. To follow in their footsteps, we would have to do the same." James stared at the equations, his mind racing. "You're saying that to save the universe, we would have to give up our bodies, all of us." "Not necessarily give up," Thera said carefully, "but change, evolve, become something new. The builders left behind more than just knowledge. They left behind the pathway to transcendence. Any species that completes their lessons can join them as pure consciousness, existing forever in a state beyond physical limitation." "But that's a choice," James said. "A huge choice. Not everyone would want that." "No," Thera agreed. And the builders understood this. Their design is not mandatory. Species can continue as they are, living and dying in the normal way. But those who choose to transcend can help maintain the universe, keeping the stars burning, holding back the darkness for those who remain behind. Sarah spoke up. "So the builders created a system where some species watch over others, where transcended beings protect those still in physical form." "Exactly. It is a gift and a responsibility. The renewed universe would be maintained by those willing to sacrifice their physical existence. They would become the guardians of everything." James walked to the window and stared out at the stars. He thought about everything that had happened since he touched the artifact. He thought about the billions of humans who were now living better lives because of the knowledge they had gained. He thought about the alliance that had formed between species that had once been strangers or enemies. And he thought about what it would mean to give all of that up, to become something beyond human, to exist as pure consciousness for eternity. "We need to tell everyone," he said finally. "This decision belongs to all of us, every species, every individual. No one should be pushed into transcendence." "Agreed," Thera said, "but there is something else you should know." "What?" Thera's expression was hard to read, but James thought he saw something like admiration in her eyes. "The equations indicate that the first species to transcend will become the core of the guardian consciousness. They will set the tone, the values, the purpose for all who follow. Dr. Walker, when the time comes, Whoever transcends first will become the foundation for all transcended beings across eternity. The weight of her words hit James like a physical blow. And you think that species should be humanity. I think that is not for me to decide, but I will say this. Of all the species in the Alliance, humans are the ones who found the key. Humans are the ones who solved the puzzle. Humans are the ones who insisted on sharing the knowledge with everyone else, rather than keeping it for themselves. If anyone has earned the right to be first, it is you. That night James sat alone on the observation deck, watching Earth rotate slowly in the distance. The blue planet looked so small, so fragile, so incredibly precious. He thought about his grandfather, who had worked in coal mines to support his family. He thought about his mother, who had been a doctor in a small town, saving lives one patient at a time. He thought about every human who had ever looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. They had all contributed to this moment. Every discovery, every failure, every stubborn refusal to give up. Humanity had stumbled and fallen countless times, but they had always gotten back up. They had always kept trying. And now they stood at the threshold of something that no species had ever faced. The chance to become more than mortal. The chance to become guardians of the universe itself. James didn't sleep that night. He spent the hours writing a message that would be broadcast to every human in existence, explaining what they had learned, what choices lay before them, and what it might mean for the future. The next morning he sent it, and the galaxy waited to see what humanity would decide. The debate lasted for months. Every human community, from the great cities of Earth to the smallest colony on the edge of explored space, discussed the choice before them. Philosophers argued about the nature of existence. Scientists examined the equations and confirmed that transcendence was indeed possible. Religious leaders struggled to reconcile the idea with their faiths. James traveled constantly during this time, speaking to groups of all sizes, answering questions as honestly as he could. He told them about the builders. He told them about the dying universe. He told them about the chance to become something greater than they had ever imagined. But he also told them about the cost. Transcendence meant leaving behind everything physical. No more food, no more sleep, no more touching another person's hand. No more sunsets or rainstorms or the smell of flowers. The transcended would exist as pure consciousness, aware of everything but part of nothing. Some people welcomed the idea. They saw it as the ultimate liberation, freedom from suffering and death, the chance to help others for eternity. Others rejected it completely. They valued their physical lives, their families, their simple pleasures. They had no desire to become something beyond human. And many were simply uncertain, torn between the appeal of transcendence and the love of the world they knew. James understood all of these reactions. He felt them himself. "What are you going to do?" Sarah asked him one evening when they were back on the Mars station. The research teams had finished their work on the renewal engine. The device was ready. All it needed was transcended minds to guide it. "I don't know," James admitted. "Part of me wants to stay. I love being human. I love the work we're doing. I love looking at the stars and wondering what's out there. But," he smiled sadly, "but I'm the one who found the artifact. I'm the one who solved the puzzle. If I don't transcend, who will? Someone has to be first. Someone has to set the foundation. It doesn't have to be you." "Maybe not, but I think it should be." Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something that surprised him. "I've been thinking about transcending too." James looked at her. But you're young, you have your whole life ahead of you." "That's exactly why I'm considering it. If I transcend, I'll have eternity ahead of me. I'll be able to help protect the universe, to watch over new species as they evolve, to be part of something so much bigger than myself." She paused. And honestly, the idea of watching stars being born, of experiencing the universe from the perspective of pure consciousness, it's incredible. It's also permanent. There's no coming back. I know that's what makes it such a big decision. She met his eyes. But you know what convinced me? It's something you said months ago when you first addressed the Galactic Council. You said that humans are good at trying even when success seems impossible. You said we're stubborn. That's what I love about being human. And I think that stubbornness, that refusal to give up, that willingness to take risks for the sake of something greater. I think that's exactly what the universe needs in its guardians. James felt tears forming in his eyes. You're right, you're absolutely right. The final vote was held on a summer day on Earth, in the same city where James had been born. Humans across every colony participated through a vast network of connected systems. Every adult was given a voice. The question was simple: should humanity attempt transcendence? The answer was not unanimous. Nothing with humans ever was, but the majority voted yes. Not everyone would transcend. Many would choose to remain in physical form, continuing their lives as before. But those who wished to join the builders would be given the chance. James was among the first to step forward. The transcendence device had been built in orbit around the sun, drawing power directly from that eternal fire. It was enormous, a construct of crystal and light that seemed to exist partially outside normal space. When James approached it in his shuttle, he felt the same humming energy that he had sensed from the artifact so long ago. He wasn't alone. Hundreds of thousands of humans had chosen to transcend with him, to become the foundation of the new guardian consciousness. They floated in space around the device, their ships forming a constellation of lights. And they weren't just humans. After months of debate, representatives from every species in the Alliance had decided to join them. Velori and Kreth, Marin and dozens of others, all of them willing to give up their physical forms to protect the universe they shared. James spoke to them through the network, his voice reaching every ear. We came from nothing, he said. All of our species, every one of us, evolved from simple matter to become thinking beings. We built civilizations. We reached for the stars. We made mistakes, terrible mistakes sometimes, but we also did incredible things. We loved each other. We helped strangers. We refused to give up hope, even when hope seemed foolish. He paused, looking at the sun burning in the distance. The builders gave us a gift. Not just knowledge, but purpose. We have the chance to protect everything that exists, to hold back the darkness, to ensure that new species can evolve and grow and reach for their own stars. We have the chance to become the guardians that the universe needs. He took a deep breath. I'm scared, he admitted. I don't know exactly what transcendence will be like. I don't know if I'll still feel like myself afterward, but I know this: whatever happens next, it will be incredible, and we'll face it together. He activated the device. Light exploded from the sun, channeled through the crystal structure, flooding through every ship and every being who had chosen to transcend. James felt his body dissolving, felt his consciousness expanding outward, felt himself becoming something vast and ancient and new all at once. And he felt the others joining him. Humans and Velori and Kreth and Marin, all their minds flowing together, all their perspectives combining into something greater than any of them could have been alone. He felt the builders welcoming them, ancient voices singing with joy as their long wait finally ended. And he felt the universe opening before him like a flower, all its mysteries revealed, all its wonders available to explore for eternity. James Walker had started his life studying dead civilizations in the dirt. Now he would watch over living civilizations among the stars. And somewhere in the vast consciousness that humanity had become, the stubborn curiosity that had driven him to solve the builder's puzzle still burned bright, ready to ask new questions, to solve new mysteries, to explore new wonders. This was not the end. This was the beginning. High above Earth, in the space where humans had taken their first steps toward the stars, the renewal engine hummed to life. Guided by the newly transcended consciousness, It reached out toward a dying star on the edge of the galaxy. And the star, which had been fading for billions of years, began to burn bright again. The universe had new guardians now. And those guardians had once been a species of curious, stubborn, beautiful apes who had looked up at the night sky and wondered what was out there. Humanity had found the artifact. And in doing so, they had restored the forgotten mysteries of existence.